All right, we will now call to order the Legislation and Rules Committee hearing for Tuesday, October 15th. Or please call the roll.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. We can't hear you.
Here.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Present.
Alderman Aldrich.
Present.
Chair Vollmer. Chair Vollmer.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Present. Alderman Cone. We have 5 present. We have quorum.
We will move to approve the minutes of Tuesday, August 7th, 2024.
I move that we approve the minutes of Tuesday, August 2nd, 2024.
Second.
Or please call the roll.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez. Alderwoman Velasquez.
Aye. Sorry, I was on mute. Aye.
Alderman Aldrich.
Aye.
Chair Vollmer.
Bless you. Thank
Chair
you.
Vollmer.
Zoom tight.
You can you hear me at all?
I can now. We couldn't
Okay.
at first.
All
We
right.
have 6 aye votes.
All right, 6 ayes is an ugly Mr. Potato Head. With that, we'll move ahead to board bills for review. Item number 1 is Board Bill 63. Alderwoman Daniela Velasquez, please proceed.
Great. I'm going to share my screen if that's all right with everybody. I sent an email a little bit ago to everybody on the committee and to the clerk, so it should be in your emails. And if somebody could just make sure it's added to the drive or all that.
It is in the drive.
Can everybody see that?
We can.
All right, so this is a pretty straightforward bill. So it really is just, obviously it's digitizing the committee votes, but this is really just to codify our process and some software that we're going to be getting. And after I go through this presentation, Clerk Kennedy will testify so he can answer some of the in-depth questions that you have. But really, this bill just lays into ordinance that all the votes taken by in committee, both non-courtesy resolutions and committee votes should be recorded, and the votes recorded and digitized and basically put in a digital archive. So this updates the code. It repeals one ordinance, 70259. Obviously, as I mentioned, it will record the votes, the committee votes on board bills and non-courtesy resolutions. It will require all the votes to be published on the city site, and then it goes into effect 1 year from the bill's passage. So what are things that are going to be recorded in a vote? Obviously, you can vote aye, no, present, and abstain. And then if an alder person is not present, it'll be recorded as an absent vote. So that's kind of how it will look in the archive. And then just some more publishing details. I mean, I think some of the things in the desire to be more transparent also make it easier for people to obviously observe and find how we vote, as opposed to just, either looking through the minutes or trying to find the exact spot on the YouTube video of when we do vote. So one, publishing it's supposed to be within 2 days following the date of the committee or Board of Aldermen meeting at which the minutes were approved. And then The votes will be published on the city's website, and they should be searchable by board number and resolution number, also chronologically by meeting date and by alderperson. Again, just trying to make it easier for people to see how people voted without having to find that exact spot on the video or in the minutes. Recording requirements, again, it's basically what I just mentioned here. That we'll have to record, the votes attached to the number of the bill or resolution, each vote by alderperson as well as the president of the board, by name or resolution. I've said that there'll be a hyperlink taken, and the votes taken on the bills will be listed collectively on the third reading and consent agenda, and they'll be noted as such. And then just a note that these, what we currently require to be published in the City Journal do not satisfy the requirements for a digital archive. So that's why these are separate recording requirements. And then that is it. Questions?
Are you going to have, were you gonna, Mr. Clerk,
I'm here.
Yes. Are there questions for me before you want to have the clerk go ahead and speak?
okay, can we get the share screen? Yeah, there we go. So I can see the lovely faces of everyone. All right, at this point, I'll open up the questions of the sponsor, Alderman Cohn. Alderman Cohn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman, can you maybe elaborate more on what the difference is between this and ordinance 70259?
So this requires a digital archive, which I don't believe the current ordinance does. So this mandates that everything gets uploaded and posted online.
But so 70259 requires that it's available in a searchable digital format.
I will look at the bill and check with you. I think that there are parts of it that there's a reason for this bill in this current format that's not in what we have now, but I can get some more answers for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm reading 70259, and it mentions many of the things that you say this board bill does, including, the proceedings recorded in the City Journal are not going to satisfy the requirement for digital archive, recording the same votes, yea, nay, present, abstain. I don't know if it addresses the resolution portion of it, but well, actually it says on any bills and non-courtesy resolutions for final passage shall be recorded by the clerk. So I was just curious if you can enumerate like what the distinctions are between the two.
Sure, I can check into that for you.
Thank you.
All right, Alderman Ryan, any questions?
Thank you, Chairman Vollmer. Alderwoman, just kind of the same, and part of this is on me for not doing my homework before the day of the hearing, but similar to the question that Alderman Cohn put forward, but then also, is there a reason for the year after this would become law before it becomes effective? That seems just like a long time to me.
Yeah, I think when Clerk Kennedy testifies, he can speak a little of that. I think what we were doing, because we actually filed this bill back in June, I believe, so we wanted to give a little bit of room for the implementation piece for the software that I believe that we've already bought, that it, everything aligns, that we're not trying to pass a law that doesn't fit with, stuff that we're going to have.
Sure.
Trying to give it a little bit of room, but I believe, and the clerk can clarify when he speaks, that I don't think it will take that long to implement, but that we wanted to give it we didn't want to have these things not match up.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my only concern was that, as the alderman from the third pointed out, that I thought that we were already doing some iteration of this, and then I just want to make sure that we're not delaying it by another year. And that's my only concern. In terms of form, I'm certainly in favor of this. You know, the more transparency we have on our votes, the better off we are in general. I just want to make sure that we're doing things in the correct way to actually get there as soon as possible.
Right.
And
Great
Thank
question.
you, Alderwoman, and I appreciate your work on this. I do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, any questions of the sponsor?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. I don't have any questions. Just looking forward to hearing from the clerk on his testimony.
All right, then. Alderman Aldridge, any questions of the sponsor?
Nope, I ditto the comments from the Alderwoman from the Power 10.
And I too am on the edge of my chair waiting for the clerk to speak.
Please contain
We,
yourself.
And I don't know, and if you mentioned that you feel this might not take a year, is there a way, and I don't know, to amend this saying 1 year or implementation of equipment, or is that, or you want to not even mess with something that trying to make sure that we can get this done as soon as possible? Is there a way of wording that or doing that? Mr. Clerk, you can speak to that during your presentation. I don't know if that's possible or not. At this point, we will, I believe I have to swear the clerk in for his presentation. Is that necessary? Or you're the expert? Or Mr. Clerk, you're the expert. Do I have to swear you in?
I think staff can.
We're allowed in? Okay, then with that, Clerk Kennedy, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For those of you that have been around for a while, you know that the Board of Aldermen did not have the capacity. Well, there were not agendas or minutes for any of the committee meetings. There had not been one at all or any of that when I became an alderman back in 1989, all the way till I stopped being an alderperson in 2019. When I became clerk, it was a mission to be able to produce both agendas and minutes that would show in some kind of public way the votes in a committee meeting. We worked with with IT on upgrading and modernizing the board's website. All the information that is there now was not on that website when I became the clerk in 2019. It has been greatly expanded to show the votes in more areas, as well as more information about board bills and activities at the board, including a very involved listing of the various steps that board bills go through. All of that is relatively new for the board, at least since the past, since 2019. Not all of it was implemented then. Our attempt at that point was to make sure that the public had greater access to the information and activities of the board, as well as greater access to the votes of members, both on the floor of the board, in the full board meetings, as well as in committee meetings. The committee meeting votes and activities were not really available to the public at all. And in fact, the Friday meetings would sometimes, the minutes of those would be weeks, if not months, after a meeting was completed. As you know, the votes in the full board meeting are recorded and uploaded onto the Board of Aldermen's website. The idea is now to be able to do the same with committee meetings, as well as minutes and agendas. There is no capacity at this point to be able to do so. It was one of the requests that we made from IT, but there were over 25 different requests that we made from them. Some took longer than others. And since IT was actually encoding this and creating and expanding the programming, it took them some time to be able to get to where it is today. We began a search of what was called a meeting management system back in 2019. To be honest with you, those applications have improved since 2019. And some of them are really able to be integrated with the Board of Aldermen or the city's website in a way that should be able to show all of the information that's being requested in the board bill. The reason for the year out is because, one, there is no capacity at this point to do it. Two, Once there is programming that is begun to be integrated into it, it may take some time for IT to do the proper integration to where you will not have to, or staff will not have to double input information. Well, one, it had to be inputted into the Board of Aldermen website as well as into a separate meeting management system. The idea is to be able to do that in just one or two keystrokes, entering it into the city's website or into the meeting management system, and they'd be integrated in such a manner that that one entering of it will allow for it to be shown in both places. That is the general idea. The IT was in on the discussions with the various companies. One that was selected that actually had the proper connecting language for the two sites to be able to work together. That is in theory. You don't always know when it comes to that kind of program until you actually begin to do the work and to see what are the quirks and what are the problems. That's why it talked about a year out. The general idea is not to wait for a year to implement it, but it could take that long because there could be kinks and there could be problems with it that may have to be solved through new types of programming and programming language connecting the two together. That's why it was a year out. You're correct that some of these votes are already being shown on the website, particularly the Friday meetings, the full board meetings, but not the committee meetings. That was something that was a part of the overall plan that we had when I became the clerk, to be able to get to this place where the committee meeting votes, as well as the minutes and agendas, will also be on the website. The reason why I believe is mentioned in the board bill about this will not satisfy, the journal will not satisfy. As you know, the minutes of the Board of Aldermen are also published on the city's website. It is published digitally. What they're basically saying is that the digital publication of the minutes will not satisfy or qualify to satisfy the requirements of this board bill, because it is uploaded onto the website digitally. What they're asking in this board bill is to have the votes being able to be separately searched and found, as opposed to having to go to each set of minutes to find the vote on a particular board bill. And as you know, there are a series of votes on a board bill. There are votes in committees, there's votes on perfection, there's vote on third reading. So the idea is to be able to search that board bill and connect to hopefully all of the various votes in the different steps of a board bill. At least now we have all of the steps of a board bill in its life as a board bill becoming an ordinance on the website in a way that the public can follow and hopefully understand the process and what's going on with a board bill and where it is. There's still some places that it could be tweaked and improved upon, but the major steps are there. So that's my understanding of one, why a year is in the board bill and why it is saying that the journal will not satisfy the requirements of this bill as a digital representation of the votes. Alderman Velazquez, did I touch on all the points that you wanted?
I think so, and I just want to clarify, I think just to Alderman Cohn's question, and maybe you can, if I'm not understanding it right too, clerk, you can correct me. The difference in this bill also, Alderman Cohn, is that the votes are recorded on final passage in the current ordinance, and as the clerk was saying, not all the committee votes. And then we want to add votes in committee and for perfection, as the clerk says, the public can follow how the votes may change as well. But I think those are some of the differences, and I don't know if I missed any of the other differences between what we currently have and, the changes that this proposes.
That's pretty much it. The votes of perfection as such is not there, but the final passage votes is what's on the website. And then none of the votes in committee are there at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. As usually, very, very, very thorough and explained everything to me. I believe I have it all. We will turn over to questions. Alderman Cohn, any questions of the clerk?
None at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Alderman Ryan.
Thank you, Chair Volmer. No questions. Thank you, Clerk Kennedy, for your explanation.
All right, Alderman Clark Hubbard.
No questions. I agree. Thank you, Clerk Kennedy, for being here for your explanation and for all of the work that you've done, even getting us to this point.
Thank you.
Alderman Aldridge.
Again, I will ditto the Alderwoman from the Power 10.
All right. And if Alderman Velazquez has questions, we're in trouble. So
I'm kidding. No, with that, I think I don't have any other, anything else to add. I would ask that the committee, I'd ask for, due,
Favorable consideration.
yes, favorable consideration of this bill.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a
Chair-
motion. Go
Sorry,
ahead, please.
Mr.
Sure.
Chair, I just want to make sure that we're passing the board bill as we're intending to. So I'm hearing that the distinction between the two is essentially requiring the committee votes. And then what was the other item?
I believe what they're saying is that what the ordinance that we're repealing currently only puts things into the journal are the final votes only. Well, this will have every vote through committee, everything, every way you vote on every bill, all the way from its inception till its final passage, will be now uploaded, and they'll be able to find the votes directly without having to go and search through the minutes of each meeting. In other words, this is going to be a subsection of votes only, is my understanding, where you say, I want to know how Alderman from the 3rd voted on every bill in the past year, and they'll be able to press a button and your voting record will come up. Is that correct in my understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
So
All right.
committee votes and non-courtesy resolutions and searchable, like kind of every way you can slice it.
Where currently the only votes you will see are final passage, and you will have to search through the minutes of each meeting to find them. So we're trying to make this, as they say in my kitchen, muy fácil.
So, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Clerk, we are currently doing that on the website.
Yeah, the final
So
vote. Mhm.
But
Committee votes.
Final votes only.
okay,
Not committee votes at all.
okay.
Yeah,
People can find the committee votes either by the minutes or by going back and watching this, but there's no record, there's no searchable record, there's no database, and that's what it's building, essentially, a database, a searchable database of all the votes and searchable by who voted, as Chairman Volmer mentioned, how people voted per bill, how each alderperson voted. It can be searched in multiple different ways, but it's tracking all the
And-
votes on every bill and
Right.
non-courtesy resolution.
Okay.
If I may add a little bit to that, the meeting management system program has the capacity to show that on its own independently from the city's website. The idea, though, is to be able to integrate them together so that staff will not have to do 3 and 4 entries at a time. If that is not possible, and it's supposed to be because the language between the two is supposed to be compatible, if that is not possible, then either they'd have to be done separately, and or new language would have to be created between the two of them, and or on the city's website. All the expansion that you see on the website was from IT writing new program language to allow the additions that you see presently on the website. And that takes some time. Again, that's another further explanation of why the year out, though it is hoped it would not take that long.
Okay, and then just from a staffing perspective,
Mhm.
we're not anticipating any additional staff time.
The idea is to be able to do this in such a manner that the present staff can do it.
Okay, and then
It
we're
would
not,
just possibly a little bit shifting of some of the duties and responsibilities.
and I recall when we did this the first go around, we went back in time to any of the ordinances that were
Yeah.
already posted on the internet to update the voting records on those. Are we planning on doing that again with committee votes?
Well, the committee votes are not on there at all.
No, I know, that's what I'm
Oh, but
asking.
you mean by entering past,
Correct.
that would be nice.
I'm
I'm saying that to
I'm
say
just
because,
asking, is that something that you're planning to do?
yes, hopefully. The problem there is that all of that is on paper and all of
Right.
that is in the archive room in various boxes.
Okay, all right.
Because there were no minutes for committee meetings.
For
And
a
then
very long time, correct.
And then the committee meetings were not digitized, so there's only place to get them now is off paper.
Yep. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
All right.
Your comments or questions?
All right, everyone satisfied with everything? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to pass board bill number 63 out with a due pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ora, please call the roll.
Alderman Cone,
Yes, aye.
Alderman Orion,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez,
Aye.
Alderman Aldred,
Aye.
Chair Vollmer. Chair Vollmer.
Aye. Can you hear me?
That's 6 aye votes.
Okay. All right, with that, we have passed out board bill 63. Ironic that Alderman from the third would say yes when we're trying to pass a legal interpretation of aye on that vote. Hey, thank you very much, Alderman Velazquez, for your presentation. You have your board bill out. Item number 2 is board bill number 95 by Alderman Aldridge. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Madam Clerk, I do have a guest speaker, Circuit Attorney Gore. I think he's in the attendee, if you can move him over when you get a chance. Very simple bill. This is an ordinance that is amending section 3.72.030 and ordinance number 70781. When it was passed, we put caps on contribution limits for the mayor, for the president board alderman, for the comptroller, the treasurer, for collector revenue, license collector, sheriff, recorder of deeds, board of aldermen, as well as school board members. But when it was passed, some way, somehow, I think it was just a clerical error that we left off the circuit attorney. So this would just ensure that the circuit attorney is in line with all other city elected officials, that the cap limit for contributions is at $2,600. I believe the circuit attorney office is already doing this because he's doing great work and make sure he's following the law. But we just want to codify it into law for future circuit attorneys, and that it's a sound ordinance that is in line with every citywide elected official having the same cap. And with that, if there's no questions for myself, like I say, I have the circuit attorney here to speak.
All right. I don't see him on my screen. Is he on page 2? Do
Looks
we have
like he
him?
still need to be moved over. He's in an attendee section.
Yeah,
still.
I do see him on my screen.
I moved him over.
All
Okay, he's
right.
got it.
Still looking for him, but there he is.
And
All right, Clerk Gore, very happy to see you, sir. Always happy to see you. Thank you very much. I believe we have to swear you in before you speak. If you raise your right hand, promise to tell everything you say, believe the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
All right. Thank you, sir, for that. All right. With that, you may proceed.
It's been a while since I've had to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm making sure you're here. I'll make sure I'm doing right by the rules.
Oh, so I just wanted to, yeah, so I have reviewed the proposed language of the amendment to the ordinance. It all makes sense to me. When I initially announced my campaign, my compliance team looked at the ordinances and were a little surprised to find out. They were like, guess what? You don't have any campaign limits. So I reviewed the statutes. I actually agreed with them, kind of the sequence of events beginning in 2016 through the amendments in 18 resulted in basically a repeal of the $10,000 campaign limit that applied to the circuit attorney's office and did not put anything in its place. Therefore, there was really no limits on what we could raise from individual donors in the primary and the general. I assumed that that was a drafting oversight and that everyone would be shocked if I started to collect donations in over 2,600, since that's what everybody else had to abide by. So our campaign agreed to voluntarily restrict donations to the $2,600 limit. Surprisingly, nobody fought me on that. No donors insisted on doing more. So we followed that. We plan to continue to follow it. But obviously it's good government to have something formally on the books in place, because that way in future races, it's not something that anyone has to concern themselves with.
Thank you very much, sir. At this point, I'll open it to questions for either the sponsor or the speaker. Alderman Cone, any questions of either?
Always. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the indulgence here. Mr. Gore, Mr. Circuit Attorney, I am just curious, when you reviewed the laws around it, were you also looking at the state statutes, or were you predominantly looking at the local ordinances?
We just focused on the local ordinances because we
Okay.
believe those are what we're controlling.
I am curious because we recently, as you're aware, are going through some, recommendations from the Charter Commission with respect to various items in the charter. And one of the items that came over was changing the schedule for elections, and the circuit attorney's office was left out of the recommendations there. And I was told that part of the reason that that was the case was because of state statutes governing circuit attorney offices are, separate and distinct from other municipal office holders and county office holders. And so I'm wondering, as someone who was around when we passed those campaign finance limits many years ago, I feel, but I can't recall whether or not that was true for the circuit attorney's office as it related to campaign finance as well. If there's a separate, state statute that governs the circuit attorneys throughout the state versus, allowing, the municipal or county offices to determine those limits.
So I can tell you that this is a situation where I relied on a couple of very good lawyers who's this is their area of expertise to advise me on it. And they advised me that the city ordinance is what would be controlling for the circuit attorney's race. And that in fact, as things currently stood, there were no limits on the circuit attorney's office fundraising, either state or city. So therefore,
Okay.
the fix at the ordinance level would be appropriate. Now, the other issue you're getting into, I have not looked into nearly as much or really at all. I will express to you that it is my personal preference that the circuit attorney's office remains on the election schedule it's currently on. So that's what I would hope would be the case. I think that makes a lot of sense to be aligned with the on-cycle statewide elections.
Yeah, and my apologies. The bill or the recommended changes were related to election schedules, but specifically for county offices, moving them to a ranked choice voting system versus a primary voting system. So similar to what we have at the local level with Board of Aldermen, mayor, comptroller, et cetera. It would keep those offices on the same schedule, but move them to a nonpartisan ranked choice voting. But
Little point of order. We're talking about campaign.
I was just putting out a point of clarification there, Mr. Chair. Not trying to dive too far into that topic, but so I'm happy to follow up with you separately on that, Mr. Gore. But certainly appreciate your time and your support of this board bill. It's always good to have transparency and good governance around campaigns. So appreciate you and your support here.
Thank you.
All right, Alderman Ryan, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Vollmer, and thank you, Attorney Gore, for being here today. I just want to thank you for during your campaign agreeing to that $2,600 limit, even though you may not have had to. From one member of the bar to another, I think that shows a lot about your character and your respect for fundamental fairness in these races. I think that's an incredibly important thing in the role that you are in. After hearing from you and from hearing from the alderman from the 14th, it seems like this is just cleanup language that really helps the future of these campaigns and the future of your position. And you actually coming here today made this crystal clear for me. If you're in support of it, I'm in support of it. And thank you for your time. And thank you, Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to Alderman Clark Hubbard. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you, Alderman Aldridge, for bringing this forward. Thank you Circuit Attorney Gore. We're gonna have to start riding together, right? Because we end up in the same places. So a lot here lately, but again, I agree and ditto, that the sign that shows the example this sets, right, for us here in good governments. And with that, I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Noted.
Okay, Alderman Velazquez, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions. Just want to say, echo my colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Gore, for being here, and thank you to my colleague for bringing this bill and just walking the walk, Mr. Gore. I think it's important for the city's leadership, to do that. So with that, I'd also like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Noted.
Well,
Thank you very
okay.
much.
You're welcome. Before I speak, I see Alderman Cone, not at a loss for words, has his hand up again. Alderman Cone?
I appreciate you always wanting brevity, Mr. Chair. I was just going to recommend that we pass this board bill in bank.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to bank.
Well, to be clear, I didn't make a motion.
Well, then please make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we pass this board bill in bank.
Second.
Okay, with that, Board Bill 95, previous roll.
No objections.
Objection, previous roll. We will then bank Board Bill 95. Please make note of that, Aura. Thank you.
So noted.
All right. Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore, thank you for being here, but thank you for being who you are and taking command of this office. And you're one of the best things that happened to the city of St. Louis in a very long time. I just want to get that on the record. You're my favorite human being I've met in the past. So you've done wonders, and anything we do to help you, never hesitate to ask us, sir.
Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate that.
All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to pass Board Bill 95. out
Did
with
I
a
get to
pass.
have last word, Mr. Chair?
Oh, well, I thought I closed for you.
Yeah, I'm never gonna let you do that because I also want to clarify that you told me that I was your favorite person, the outfits that I wore on the floor. But
Well, I'm still
also,
waiting for my Harris signs.
they are just got a text on the way. I just want to, also wrap up and just say, I want to thank the circuit attorney for, before I filed this legislation, I still wanted to talk with him. And the first thing he told me, he was like, we're already following the guidelines of other offices, which he didn't have to. He could have raised more money than what those other offices was. But he said this is a good idea. I think it continues to show just the upstanding individual that he is in the city of St. Louis. We've got a great circuit attorney. Been excited to work with him on this legislation as well as legislation from the budget committee to help that office out. And now with that, Mr. Chair, as your favorite individual, I would allow you to make a motion for a do pass recommendation.
I will.
And I would just like to say thank you, Rasheen, for bringing this bill, because I do think in the future you might have a situation where some people have chose to comply and some people chose not to, and it would create an even playing field. So I do appreciate this cleanup.
All right. Gosh, you think people would do that? Okay. Yes, Alderman, you're my favorite current Alderman of the 14th Ward, sir. Thank you very much. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we pass this with
Pass
a.
Board Bill 95 out with a do pass recommendation.
I move that we pass Board Bill 95 out with a do pass recommendation.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, we have passed out Board Bill 95 on to the full board. With that, I thank all of you for your time. Mr. Gore, you are free to leave us as we continue our meeting.
Thank you very much.
All right. Or resolutions for review.
We have none.
Committee discussions.
We have
Other
none.
than your favorite?
Any written
on the way.
testimony? Any written, order here, order. Any written testimony?
We have none.
Any announcements besides there'll be no cooking of bacon before the meeting this Friday?
Outside of signs will be also here by Friday. Bacon may happen.
All of them are present. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll
Second.
call.
Previous roll.
Objection.
Objection to previous roll. Overruled. Goose said so. With that, we will move to adjourn. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.